Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody for joining us today for the Olmstead Implementation Office Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to talk about all about the 2022 Olmstead Plan Satisfaction Survey. So let's go to the next slide. Just to introduce myself, my name is Leah, and I've been contracted to support the Olmstead office in facilitating today's proceedings. For the benefit of everyone here, I'm a middle-aged white woman with short brown hair, wearing glasses and a green dress, and I'm sitting in my home office, which has a floral painting in the background, and my pronouns are she, her. To get us started today, I'd like to go through some ground rules that will help us have the best discussion possible. So if we can all stay present and be respectful of other participants. We ask that people don't share personal contact information as this meeting is being recorded, and just to honor everybody's right to privacy. If you could please stay on mute unless you're talking, that would be helpful. If you do have a question or a comment, and we do have a time set aside for those today, you can click the raise hand button if you would like to share, and I will call on you. If you are sharing, could you please identify yourself? And if you'd like to, you can include the pronouns that you wish to use. And a reminder that this event is being recorded for later use. Some housekeeping items to mention to everybody. Today's discussion does have CART captioning. If you would like to see this, please click on the CC closed caption button at the bottom of your screen, and then you'll be able to see the captions. We're also very fortunate to have ASL interpreters available for us. If you would like to pin them to your screen so that regardless of what is showing on the screen, you can always see the ASL interpreter, you need to hover your mouse over their window, find the 3 ellipses or dots and click those, and then select pin. And then you'll be able to see that person throughout today's presentation. And next slide, please. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Chloe, who's going to take us through the rest of today's presentation. And Chloe, I believe you're the communications officer, correct?
Yes, thank you so much, Leah. So my name is Chloe, and I am the communications specialist here at the Olmstead Implementation Office. I use she, her pronouns, and just as a visual description of myself, I am a young white woman with shoulder-length brown wavy hair. I am wearing glasses and a sleeveless blouse that has butterflies on it, and I am sitting in my living room with a plant next to me. So thank you everyone for joining us today to learn more about the Olmstead Plan Satisfaction Survey. This is a very important survey that we offer every year, and we are very glad that so many are joining us today to learn more about it and be a part of our work. So just as a brief overview, what is the Olmstead Plan Satisfaction Survey? Well, it's an annual survey, so it happens every year. And it gives you the opportunity to review current plan goals and let us at the Olmstead Implementation Office, also known as OIO, lets you let us know what you think of these plan goals and progress we've been making with the Olmstead plan here in Minnesota. You can, in the survey, you can suggest changes or improvements and let us know why a goal is or is not working for you. And this helps us, as I said, improve our work here at the Olmstead Implementation Office. And next slide, please. So as I mentioned, this is a very important survey that we do every year. And it's very important for a number of different reasons. First, it helps sub-cabinet agencies and departments know what the public thinks of their work. The Olmstead sub-cabinet is made up of several different state agencies and departments, And they all work together on the goals of the Olmstead plan to make sure that we're reaching those goals. And they track progress and help report out to the public where we're at with that progress. And so the survey information that we collect is sent to the subcabinet so that they can review it and help implement some of those suggestions and changes within the Olmstead plan. The survey responses also address changes to the current goals and influence the annual plan amendment process that happens in December and January. So we give you 2 times a year to comment on what you think of the Olmstead plan with this annual survey, which is about everything in the plan, and then the plan amendment process, which is about specific goals within the plan. The survey information also helps direct the work of OIO, or the Olmstead Implementation Office, so that we can support public engagement, such as events like we are doing today with the Lunch and Learn event, as well as the formation of new work groups. We currently have 5 work groups in the Olmstead Implementation Office that are made up of members from the public, as well as state agencies and partner organizations. And those work groups the topics of those work groups are based on things that the public made known were important to them. So through the survey, it will help tell us if there are more work group topics that we need to expand upon. And the survey then in turn helps those work groups direct their work in thinking about what topics within their work they need to be focusing even more on, as well as how they should be collecting public input through surveys and their own events. Next slide, please. So before you take the survey, it would be helpful if you knew a little bit about the plan goals within the Olmstead plan. The Olmstead plan has more than 30 goals across 12 different goal areas. And in the survey, we asked you to respond to 3 of these goal areas of the 12. And there's 2 great ways to learn more about the Olmstead plan and these goals. Both of them can be found on our website, which we will show you in just a minute. And we have both a goal page where you can see each individual goal as well as progress through charts. And then you can also find the Olmstead plan and the Olmstead plan in plain language on our website. And it is available in English, Hmong, Somali, and Spanish. So we are going to show you these 2 pages on our website where you can find this information. So Rylan, when you're ready, we can pull up our website. Wonderful, thank you. So this page here is the plan goal page. You can reach it by accessing from our website on the green toolbar, the plan goals button. And as you can see, we have 12 different topic categories that you can explore more from. So for example, if you want to learn more about our housing goal in the Olmstead plan, you can click on the housing icon. This will bring you to a page that has the housing services goal written out for you, as well as a chart showing some of that progress and whether or not we've been reaching that goal or not. So this is a really helpful visual way to learn more about plan goals if that's how you would like to learn more about them. From here on our website, you could also read the Olmstead plan if you would like. So if you want to go, perfect, thank you, Rylan. The Minnesota Olmstead Plan page is located from the green toolbar underneath Olmstead Plan, about the plan. And if you scroll down just a little bit on this page, you can read the Olmstead Plan, and there's 2 different versions, as I mentioned. We have both the plan in its entirety, which is quite a long document and it's very in-depth. But if you are really interested in just a few of the goals, it could be a really helpful way to learn a lot about what our state agencies are doing to address these goals. If you just want to get a general sense of what goals are in the Olmstead plan, then the plain language version is a great place to start. The plain language version currently is of a 2020 revision of the Olmstead plan. We are currently actively updating it to reflect some of the new goals that are in the Olmstead plan. However, this is still going to be a very great starting point if you want to get a general sense of what the Olmstead plan is. And again, as you can see, we have it in English, Somali, Hmong, and Spanish, so that you can access both the large version and the plain language version of the plan in whatever language you need. Great, so I think now we can go and take the survey. And if we just want to, perfect, thank you. So the survey is found under Olmstead Plan, the green toolbar, under Olmstead Plan, the 2022 Satisfaction Survey. And from this page, you can push the button, the blue button that says take the 2022 Plan Satisfaction Survey. So we'll take the survey right now and we'll walk you through each step of it. So when you click the link, you will be brought to a different website that's still an mn.gov website, but it will be different from the Minnesota Olmstead Implementation Office website. This survey is hosted by the Minnesota Management Analysis and Development Agency. It is not hosted by OIO. Therefore, it's a completely different entity within the state of Minnesota hosting the survey. OIO won't have access to any private information from the survey. We only have access to the answers. So you can feel very comfortable knowing that this is anonymous while you're taking the survey. So if we want to scroll down, as you can see, we have some tips for taking the survey, as well as contact information for Mongol 10, and he is the one at MAD, the Management Analysis and Development Agency, who is helping OIO conduct this survey. And you can reach out to him if you have any questions specific to the survey. And I think we're ready to begin, so you can click the next button. Great, so the first question is just a little bit about you. We are curious to know which roles best describe you, and you can select any that apply. So you might be both a person with a disability and a caregiver for someone with a disability. Or you could be a person with a disability and someone working within the school district. There's a lot of different intersections of our disability or of our identities. So you are allowed to choose as many as apply to you. So Rylan, if you just want to select one or two, depending on where we are today. Perfect. So we are a state or county employee today. And then we need to choose which county of Minnesota we live in, because this survey is open only for Minnesotan residents. So go ahead and choose. Perfect. Thank you, Rylan. And then we can go to the next page. Wonderful. So as we mentioned, the Olmstead plan has 12 different categories for our goal areas. In this survey, we ask you to choose 3 of those areas to respond to. And so on the survey, they list out all 12 of these categories, and you would just select 3. So Rylan, if you want to go ahead and select 3 for us to respond to today. And you can respond to up to 3, but it's okay if you only want to respond to 1 or 2. Great. So the first goal category that we are going to respond to is employment. And as you can see, there are 2 questions. One is the current Olmstead plan goals for the employment category represent what I want the future to look like for people with disabilities. And you can agree, you can disagree, or you can say, I'm not sure. And then the next question would be, I'm happy with the state's progress in meeting these goals. And again, you can agree, you can disagree, or you can say you're not sure. finally, there is a short answer question where you can provide more information for us. And for example, if you were in charge of the Minnesota Olmstead Plan, what goal would you set in the employment category? And you can write what goal you would want in the employment category for the Olmstead Plan. So if Rylan, if you just want to choose a few, if you agree, disagree, if you're not sure, perfect, thank you. Then we will respond to the next goal category. In this case, we chose healthcare. And you want to, once again, answer the same questions about if you agree, disagree, or if you're not sure. And then if you were in charge of the Olmstead Plan, what goal would you set within the healthcare category? And finally, we have housing, which was our third goal category that we chose. Again, those same questions. And I should note that while you're responding to the survey, if you want to take another look at what those goals are, we do link, you can, in exactly right there, Rylan. So it says, please pick how much you agree or disagree with these sentences about the housing goals. This website shows these goals. If you click that, you'll go to the goal page on our website. And Rylan, if you just want to go ahead and let us know if you agree, disagree, or if you're not sure. Perfect, thank you. So we're done with that part of the survey of responding to 3 particular goal categories. Now we just have general questions about the Olmstead Plan. So our first question is, in what ways, if any, has the Minnesota Olmstead Plan helped people with disabilities live their best lives? Please describe. So this could be from a personal experience or a professional experience, or whatever capacity you are answering the survey from today. After that, we have the next question, which is, if you were in charge of the Minnesota Olmstead Plan, what state policy or rule would you change or add to help Minnesotans with disabilities live their best lives? What would the new rule say or do? So again, we want people to really let us know what they think would help them live their best lives. That is the goal of the Olmstead Plan as a whole, is to help to make sure that Minnesotans with disabilities can and are living their best lives. So let us know what you would add or change so that you can achieve that. Finally, we want to know if it's easy for you to understand the Minnesota Olmstead Plan and how it supports people with disabilities. You can let us know with either yes or no if you feel like you understand how it supports people with disabilities. So Riley, we can go to the next page, please. Then finally, we have just demographic questions here. We are curious to know what your gender is. We have male, female, prefer to self-describe, and prefer not to say. If you want to self-describe, it will open up a box where you could enter in your preferred pronouns or how you prefer to self-describe. We also are curious about your age category. Again, you can hit prefer not to say, and then your racial or ethnic groups. And again, you can self-describe or you can just prefer not to say. And then after you've done that, we are curious to know how you learned about the survey. So you might have heard from it from an email communication, which maybe is how a lot of you are here today, or our social media posts. You might have seen it on the website when you were just browsing the website, or through one of our partners in the community or another state agency. And then we just provide an area if there's anything else you want to add that you felt the survey didn't cover that you want OIO to know today. And with that, you would hit submit, and your questions will be sent to Monkle@MAD. And when the survey is completed on August 21st, we will get all of those survey responses. Perfect. So thank you, Rylan. We can go back to our presentation now. Great. So there's where you can find the survey, and we just went through it. So now we can talk a little bit more about how survey data is used. Last year, we had more than 400 comments through the satisfaction survey, and we've already been implementing some of the changes based on the feedback received. So for example, in our 2021 survey, 38% of respondents said that they do not understand how the Minnesota Olmstead Plan supports people with disabilities. Some comments received included that they want to create more opportunities for community partners, state agencies, and other government entities to learn about the Olmstead Plan, goals, and engagement opportunities. And another person wrote, always simplify language and then get the message out to everyone who can then understand what Olmstead actually means and finally move forward with their ideas. So we took those pieces of feedback, and in 2022 so far, of course, we're only 7 months in, but in 2022 so far, we've hosted 8 public events for learning as well as community input events. So both people can learn from OIO about what we do. And those events, we've also invited state agency partners in with us. And we also hosted input events so that we can learn from the public what they want us to know about the Olmstead Plan. So offering many different ways for people to interact with us. And then also for the first time ever, plan amendments were in plain language. So plan amendments is the process that happens in December and January every year, where the public can comment on updates to the Olmstead Plan. And this year, for the first time, we had them in plain language to try to make them more understandable for everyone who uses the Olmstead Plan. And if we want to go to the next slide, we have a couple more examples of how survey data was used. So for example, last year with the 2021 survey on the community engagement goal, one person wrote, there is very little publicity about boards and commissions that people with disabilities may want to serve on. If you don't know about them, you can't apply. And just as background, our community engagement goal within the Olmstead Plan has a threshold for the minimum number of people with disabilities we want serving on state boards and commissions. So we took that comment because we know that maybe if you don't know what you don't know, how can you serve on a board? So we took that comment as well as the other feedback we received about the community engagement goal. And we hosted 2 public events that included information about boards and commissions. In March, we hosted a lunch and learn with the Office of the Governor, and 2 staff representatives came and shared more about boards and commissions. And then during our Olmstead Day event in June, we invited people who currently serve on boards within the state, people with disabilities, to share in one of our breakout sessions about their experiences sharing or serving on a state board. And we have also been actively promoting openings within boards and commissions on social media and in our newsletter. And we can go to the next slide. Here's another response to the community engagement goal. We received feedback that included put area businesses, chambers, and community partners on the line for being accountable for including all their community members by focusing on people with disabilities. And more communities need to include people with intellectual disabilities in their community and in government roles. In response, we set the goal to have 50% of work group members be members of the disability community. The other 50% represents state agencies and community partners and businesses. These people work together to make recommendations to the Olmstead subcabinet. So as I mentioned earlier, OIO has 5 work groups that have different topic areas that they address. And this year, when we opened applications in May, we knew we needed at least 50% of our work group members to be people from the disability community, members of the public. and the other 50% are state agencies, community partners, and providers. And these people work together very closely every month to make recommendations, to host input events and surveys, and just engage with the public and make recommendations to the Olmstead subcabinet. So the work groups are a very powerful part of the Olmstead plan and the Olmstead implementation office. And we use this feedback that we got to make sure that they are even more representative of the people who the Olmstead plan are for. Thank you. Next slide, please. So now we have time for questions. I'll hand that over to Leah to give a little bit more information about how to submit questions. Thank you.
Chloe, thanks for such an excellent walkthrough of the website and the survey and the questions. Now is the time, as Chloe said, to ask you if you have any questions for us. So if you do, please use the buttons at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. And I'll call on people as I see them register that they'd like to share or ask a question to the group. Now, as you think about your questions, some people did submit questions ahead of time. And one of the questions for you, Chloe, is when will the survey results be publicly available and how would I know?
Perfect. That's a great question. So the survey is currently open. It opened on 21st of July and it will close on the 21st of August. And from there, Munkle at MAD will help put all of those survey responses together and interpret the data so that it can be presented to the Leadership Forum on September 19th. The Leadership Forum is an important part of the Olmstead Implementation Office. They report to the Olmstead Subcabinet, which is that group that we talked about earlier. So the survey results will go to the Leadership Forum on September 19th, and they will be made public at that time. You can also, if you're curious to learn more about the results, you can attend the Leadership Forum. It's a virtual meeting, so you are welcome to attend through Zoom and learn more about those results and hear what the Leadership Forum has to say. You could also read this report on our website the next day. And you can sign up for our newsletter to make sure that you get the summary report in your inbox. And we will also be posting it on social media, so make sure you're following OIO on social to get those in every area of your life that you possibly can.
Thanks, Chloe. Does anybody else have any other questions about when the survey results will be made publicly available? Or any other questions? If you do, please raise your hand. Let me know. Another question that was submitted, Chloe, and this you touched on this just a bit in your presentation, but how many times can someone take this survey? And I just want to pause there and say that the raise hand button is under the reactions section. So if you click on the reaction, it's a little smiley circle with a plus. You'll see a raise hand there. Sorry, just wanted to clarify. Go ahead, Chloe. How many times can somebody take the survey?
Sure thing. Well, you can take the survey more than once. If you want to, for example, comment on more goals than just the 3 categories that we allow in the survey. So if you want to respond to 4 categories, you could take the survey twice and respond to 3 of the categories and then take it again to respond to the additional category.
Awesome. I'm just going to keep going with the pre-submitted questions, but I'm trying to keep an eye out. So I invite anybody here who has a question for Chloe to raise their hand and let me know, and we'll be happy to have you speak with us. What about an organization? Can an organization take the survey as an entity?
That's a great question. I'm glad that we had some of these submitted ahead of time because they're really good. And I didn't cover that yet. So yes, an organization can respond to the survey. We also encourage individual members of that organization to respond, as well as to help people that they serve take the survey, because we really want to reach as many Minnesotans with disabilities as possible. They are the folks that the Olmstead plan serves. So yes, certainly an organization can respond to the survey on a whole, but the organization should also work to encourage their individual staff members and the folks that they serve to take the survey themselves. And just remember to reiterate, the survey is anonymous, and OIO, the Olmstead Implementation Office, will not know the identities of the respondents. So you don't need to worry about any personal information being released to OIO or to the public or to the organization that you serve.
That's good to know. Thanks for that reminder, Chloe. Now, when you were going through the survey, you showed a variety of different categories that a person answering the survey can select. So what happens if a person fits into more than one category?
Sure. Yeah, we do allow people to choose as many categories as they would like. However, if you're responding to the survey from a certain viewpoint, then you should choose the category that will best fit you. So for example, you might be a person with a disability as well as serve at an organization. But if you are only answering the survey from a personal standpoint and you don't want to answer it from a professional standpoint, then you could just select that you are a person with a disability and you don't need to include information about your employment. And so you should choose the identities that you feel most comfortable with and that will best represent yourself taking the survey today.
Excellent. Thanks again. Just reminding people, if you do have any questions, you can find that reaction button and raise your hand to be called on. Now, Chloe, you mentioned that there are a variety of goals, and you did say that a person could choose up to 3 goals to respond to, but do they have to choose 3 goals?
No, you can choose 1 goal or 2 goals or 3 goals, whatever you want. So if you're really passionate about housing and you only want to respond about housing, go ahead and just select housing. If you're really passionate about all 12 categories, go ahead and take the survey 4 times and respond to each category. It's up to you and what you want to respond to. We wanted to make the survey as user-friendly as possible, because we know that a lot of people might only have a couple areas in their life that they're really passionate about, that they really know the Olmstead plan about. For example, housing is so important to so many people, and they might just want to talk about housing. They might just want to let OIO know what they think about those housing goals, and that's totally okay to just choose 1 or 2 goal areas. You do not need to choose all 3, or you can go above and beyond and go with all 12.
Excellent. There's a lot of flexibility here, and that's nice to hear. I'm not seeing any hands raised, so I'm going to continue with the questions that we've had submitted, but please feel free to raise your hand at any time so I can call on you to share or ask a question with the group. Now, at the very end of that survey, there were some demographic questions that you pointed out. Can you tell us why you're asking for that information from people?
Yeah, absolutely. We use this information just to help us know who we're reaching. And then we can use that information to help us reach more people, so that if we, for example, especially like with the counties, we need to make sure that we're reaching rural Minnesota as well as metro, because not everything is about the Twin Cities. And so if we're saying that we have lopsided in terms of what counties people are identifying as living in, that's really important for us to know that we're not doing a good job of maybe reaching southwestern Minnesota because we didn't have any respondents from those counties. So we use that information just to make sure that we're doing a good job of reaching certain populations. And for example, we just this year launched the Minnesota Olmstead plan in 3 additional languages than English. And we did that because we know that we have folks with disabilities from populations where English is not their primary or chosen language. And so we wanted to make sure that we were making the Olmstead plan accessible for everyone that it serves. So that information is all private data. You will not have to worry about anything getting out to the public in terms of how you responded, about your location or your age or your race. That is all private and anonymous.
Excellent. Thank you, Chloe. And Chloe, what are the 3 additional languages that the survey is now published in?
The Olmstead plan is now in addition to English, it's in Somali and Spanish and Hmong. So, and that includes not just the Olmstead plan, but also the plain language version, which might be a better starting off point for people who are just learning about the Olmstead plan.
Right. Yes, the Olmstead plan is in those languages. Thank you so much. That's very exciting to hear. What if somebody who wants to take the survey or maybe is in the middle of taking the survey has some issues or they have some questions? Is there anybody that they can contact for help or assistance?
Absolutely. So as mentioned, Olmstead Implementation Office is not the one who's running the survey. It's our friends at Minnesota Management and Analysis Department. So that will be on the home screen of the survey. There is a link to Mongol's Tang's email, and you can reach out to him. So for example, if you need some accommodations with taking the survey, you can reach out to him and he's the one who can help. Because it is anonymous, it's best not to reach out to OIO because we want to make sure that we keep it anonymous and that we don't know about individual responses. So that's the best way. And as I said, his contact information is on the first page of the survey.
Right. We did see that when we went in. So that's great to know that people do have a contact that's outside of Olmstead office to help them with the survey if they need that. Excellent. Thank you. What if somebody wants to share the link to the survey with others? Can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So we do encourage, as I mentioned earlier, we encourage as many people to take it as possible who have feedback or something to say to the Minnesota Olmstead Implementation Office. And so we do encourage organizations to promote the survey as well as individual people. If you want to share it on your social media, then please do so. The more people who take it, the better, because that will be better representative of all of Minnesota. Last year, we had over 200 people respond to the survey. And of course, we hope to only grow that year over year. So definitely please share it and let your own communities know about it so that we can really get the best feedback possible and then implement that feedback. As we saw with the 3 examples I shared today, the feedback really does make a difference in the Olmstead Implementation Office. And so the more feedback, the better.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So you've talked about the survey and how people can respond to the goals and give their input to the goals, but you also mentioned that The ongoing work of the Olmstead Implementation Office involves all of these work groups and those issues. What if somebody just wants to share their experience or give some feedback that maybe is outside of the survey? If they want to make a comment on the plan or give some information, how can they do that?
Absolutely. Well, at the end of the survey, after you've responded to the goals, we do have those areas where you can just make some general comments about the Olmstead plan. If you have anything else that you want to add. However, I also know sometimes you take a survey and then afterwards you're thinking, oh, I forgot to include this comment, or even months later, you might want us to know something. We have feedback forms on our website so that you can send feedback to the sub cabinet or the leadership forum or the work groups or just to OIO in general, and we'll disseminate that to the proper groups within OIO. And so there's definitely a lot of ways to always be in touch with OIO. Of course, those formats are not necessarily anonymous the way that the survey is. So just remember that, and we always welcome feedback so that we can constantly improve and be a better Olmstead plan for Minnesotans with disabilities.
Excellent, Chloe. Thank you so much. It sounds like there are a lot of options, and if they go to the website, they'll see those other options. And then people also have the link to the survey. So a lot of opportunity there to give your feedback and share your thoughts on the Olmstead plan. So those were all the questions that I had that were previously submitted. Does anybody else here have a question for Chloe now that we have her and you've heard this information about the survey and OIO and how they work? Does anybody else have any other questions? Or Chloe, is there anything else you can think of that you would want to add to today's discussion?
I think the questions that were submitted ahead of time were really great. So thank you to everyone who sent us in a question about this survey. And I would just want to remind everyone to take the survey today, or at the very least before August 21st. We will, of course, send out more information in our newsletter and on our social media about it. So make sure that you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn, and make sure that you're signed up for our newsletter. We'll just send some reminders so that you won't forget. And you can go ahead and forward that information to your network as well, so that we can get as much feedback as possible, as I mentioned, so that we can make the Minnesota Olmstead Plan truly reflect the needs and opinions and preferences of Minnesotans with disabilities.
Thank you so much, Chloe. I don't see any other questions. Do we have another slide with information, or do we just give people back the time and say thanks for everybody for joining us today?
I do think we have an additional slide with just a little bit more information. Perfect. Thank you, Rylan.
Right. So, yes, tomorrow morning you will receive a link to a meeting evaluation survey, which is about this session today. So if you could please take the time to fill it out, that helps the Olmstead Implementation Office ensure that your experience today was what you expected. And as Chloe mentioned, there have been so many public engagement opportunities. Your feedback on these helps shape future events. So thank you in advance for that. And then in the survey, they'll provide links to the website and how to sign up for their newsletter to learn more about the office's work, as well as links to the social media accounts that Chloe mentioned several times today. So there's a number of ways to keep in contact with the Olmstead office, to hear about what's new and to find out how you can be involved. Just sign up for those and go to the website and answer the evaluation to get those updates if you're interested. As ever, your comments are always welcomed, and you are encouraged to use the online forms to leave comments, as Chloe mentioned, for the sub-cabinet and for leadership forum members. And you can find those forms at mn.org/surveys. olmstead.gov/Olmstead. Right, next slide, please. Yes, thank you so much to those who joined us today. Chloe, what a wealth of information you had about the survey. So we hope everybody is able to take that survey and continue that trend of giving the Olmstead office feedback and input to help them shape the Olmstead plan, which helps for services for people with disabilities. So your input is an integral part of that process. Thanks to everybody today. Also, thank you in advance for filling out the evaluation on today's meeting. We look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you everyone for joining today.